In this video, I'll be looking at all of the mix notes that you folks left on my Songtember song. Hello, my name is Pete. It is Songtember 2023, and we're at the business end, people. We are doing the final mix. All we have left to do is the final mix, the master, the album art, and the release, and we've got count them, 3 days to do it. So we better get a little bit of a move on here. Now, recently, I had a weekend off. Always a great idea in the middle of Songtember, but I asked you folks to help me out and to do the listening and the mix notes that I would normally do myself. So what we're going to do in this one is review those notes. Now, if this is not up your alley, then feel free to skip this one. In the next video, though, we'll actually be doing these changes. We'll be doing the mix. So if you want to find out what this mix sounds like right now, check out the video that I have linked down there and up there. That will be the starting point, because now we're going to dive in and get your views on these mixes and what changes you think need to happen. So we're going to read through these. I'm going to take some notes. We're going to work out some themes, because guess what? I can't do it all. And I know I may not agree with some of the mix notes that you folks have put out there. It doesn't mean you're wrong. This is the thing. Music is not right or wrong. It is not black or white. It is a lovely turquoise or a rainbow of colors. So you don't have to worry about the fact that you're going to be right, wrong, or otherwise, because it's all subjective. It's all your opinion. But I wanted your opinions. I asked for your opinions, and I thought it only makes sense that we actually talk about the opinions. Now, I'm going to be making these notes over in OneNote, and I'll let you know all the notes at the end. But let's kick off with our friend and moderator, Mr. Thomas Christ, who says, right off the bat, sounds really good as is. This is a really great song. A couple of things. I would use the EQ to roll off the low frequencies on your main vocals. Really, all the vocals could do with that. You have a lot going on in this track, so space within the sonic spectrum is a premium. So if you want to reclaim as much as you can. So we'll make a note of that, because I agree. So a high pass filter on vocals. I agree, because, we don't need that low end on the vocals. I would take the ooh-vox at the beginning and repeat of choices in life at the end of the first verse and heavily filter EQ them on a separate track to get that narrow bandwidth telephone-like sound. Yeah, I agree with this one. I was thinking about a similar sort of thing. So filter the oohs to make them, thin and telephone-like. I agree with that. And if you've heard the song, you'll know exactly what Thomas means. On the heavy chorus after verse 1, I would split off the guitars to new tracks, pan them wide, and use heavier, more distorted, overdriven settings on the amps to really drive up that intensity. Chorus, guitars, more distortion and intensity. I will note that down for sure. I would cut down significantly on the reverb and on the chorus lead vox and use more echo delay. Yeah, I agree with this too. So vocals, less reverb. And I've read some of the other comments and they all tend to agree with that. Just keeps the vocals on point. I could probably think of a few other tips and tricks here, but those are the main things. So thank you. Thank you, Thomas Christ. Yeah, some great points there. High pass filter on the vocals, filtering the oohs, the chorus, guitars, more distortion and a bit more intense, and less reverb on the vocals. And we will be going in and playing around with those, as I mentioned, in the next episode. Now, if you're wondering why we do this, well, when you get to the final mix point, it's a good idea to actually note down. So what I'm doing over here, we'll just slide this over onto the screen so that you can take a little look-see. Here's my mix notes. So I've noted all of those down here. And what I do like to do first, I haven't done it there, is put what I'm doing it to. And then, so this is going to be backing vocals. Backing vocals. Yeah, just like that. And guitars, just so that I can kind of bring this all together. So that's how I'll be taking these notes and putting them together here in this episode. And I suggest you do the same. Like sometimes if you mix on the fly and you listen and you tweak something and then you listen, you kind of forget what you're hearing and you forget what you've changed, and maybe you're not actually improving it. Maybe you're making it dun 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 worse. Thank you to Catriona. Love this track. Favorite parts are 121 and 242 when the guitar does its chug-a-lug thing. Very cool. Thank you for that. Kion Ra says, hey Pete, great track, great mix. I agree with others. Sounds a little muddy, and no one likes the muddy bottom. Sidechain kick and bass to really hear the kick and a bit of reverb on the snare if you haven't already. Yeah, so I do definitely need drums, kick, and snare, and then reverb on the snare. I do have a little on there, but I think I do need to get a little more on there. I feel the drums could punch through a tiny bit more. Vocals are sitting well in the mix, but a little dull. Maybe a bit of EQ to add a tiny bit of high and mid range. Yeah, I agree with that too. So I'm going to put that next to vocals here. I'm going to put less reverb. I'm going to go vocals again. I also think that EQ, a high-end boost, like maybe just a little bit of clarity at the high end as well. Agree about the guitars need to come through more. Again, some EQ boosting may assist. I think you previously mentioned EQ left guitar opposite to right guitar. Yeah, maybe a smidge more. I definitely need to do that. So guitars, do some opposite EQ to see whether that's going to make the two guitars stand out a little bit more. Also, a little volume automation on the guitar solo parts to really highlight them, and or sidechain with the vocals just a tiny bit, as I think they are in the same sound range. Yeah. Automation is something that I definitely need to do with some of the volume on this. I'm going to put here guitars, automation on lead parts. And maybe we'll explore that. Again, all these notes are going down. Will we do every single one of them? Maybe, maybe not. But we're at least going to go with the mix. Let's see. Arrangement and everything sounds amazing. Great song. Well done. Thank you. The sandwich method of feedback. Yeah. Has anyone use that? The turd sandwich? Yeah. I don't think it works that well. I'm a big boy. Just go with me and tell me all the things that need to happen, and we'll do it. Alrighty. So Owner Cafe, thank you for your comments here. Add a bass track, preferably with bluesy riffs and fills. Chorus hook has power and gravity. Intro, first part of the song, verse need more gravity. Anticipation, most likely. Technically, a little bit of reverb and delay on the vocal part. About 1 minute 0 second. Unnecessary for my earphones. Idea. Try another guitar loops or play it by yourself. I would also try clean electric guitar arpeggio, add a small amount of distortion, and the intro part seems too simple. Add complexity, for example, like at 2 minutes 20 seconds. These are all really good ideas, and in all honesty, a lot of them I don't think I've got the time to do. And if I was going to do arrangement work and re-recording work, yeah, I could probably do that. But yeah, I think definitely we're looking already at the vocals, and we're looking at the delay and the reverb on the vocals, and I'll continue to consider that and see what we need to do with that. So I do thank you for that. And yeah, look, if it wasn't a song in a month challenge and I had more time, but again, yeah, how long would you take? How long can you continue to do and redo things? Bob Stewart says, my headphones have died, so listening on the TV sounds great. I would high pass the guitars. Seems a lot of low energy from them. Yeah, good point there. We've had someone talk about the high pass on the vocals. I think a high pass filter on guitars is not a bad idea, just to clean up that sludgy bottom end that seems to be coming through there. Yep. I think the Vox sounds great. Coming across on my system, it's louder than the instruments. Yeah, this is something. So vocals, turn down the volume. So I may need to do some balancing between the volume and the compression, because I want to make sure that it's a consistent volume level. But I think I've made it actually too loud at this point in time. Thank you, Jesus Gonzalez says a great job. I agree with the other comments on just tweaking the high end up. So we've got another one for a high end boost. So I'm just going to put a ×2 next to that one on the high end boost. And actually, who was the person who said before add EQ to the high end? Yeah. So we've had a bunch of folks that have been saying high end would be a good idea as well. All right, the Vampire Queen. Good mix. I think the drums need some reverb. So that's drums, kick and snare. Well, reverb on the snare. That's a ×2 for that. Absolutely. The vocals could use some treble. That's the vocals treble boost ×3. So we've got some themes here, and this is great because, again, we can't do everything, but we do want to have a bit of a play. The vocals could be some treble and could also be turned down. Yes, vocals, too loud. That's a ×2 on that one as well. So thank you for that. They are quite loud, aren't they? I've always had this problem of mixing my vocals to. I'm like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. Sorry guys, just too darn loud. Matthew's Garden. Hello, Matt. Yeah, vocals down a smidge. Absolutely, vocals need to come down, and that's a ×3 on that one. Bitumen, does Songtember welcome Logic Pro into the mix? I've been using both iOS GarageBand and Logic Pro back and forth, been having some crashing issues. Yeah. So I've had a few reports from folks around Logic Pro on sort of lower end iPads having some challenges with crashing and other things. So yeah, it is definitely, it uses a lot more system resources. So in fact, I'm doing a GarageBand weekly on whether I will actually keep using Logic Pro or maybe I'll go back to GarageBand, especially for things. I'm vibing with the track, by the way. Your chorus, the song in general, is giving me Black Sabbath vibes. I'll take that. Every day and twice on Sunday. Carlos Martinez says, love that feeling. Thank you, my friend. Bakita, do we? Hey, Pete, do you know if Logic for iPad is supporting transport control or MIDI learn? Sort of ish, kinda. Haven't played around with the MIDI in Logic too much, but yeah, ask the folks at the Logic for iPad users group on Facebook. That's a great place to get good advice. I agree the guitars could use a bit more presence. So yeah, I'll make a separate note of that one here from Carlos. So guitars, more presence. So yeah, I think they just need to shimmer a little more, don't they? Like they're a little bit sludgy. Look, I wasn't going into detail with this over here, but just so that you can actually hear some of this stuff. Maybe we will do that, because otherwise it's going to be me talking for 30 minutes. So let's just play these guitars soloed, and you'll hear what folks are talking about here. They're nice, but they're almost too fuzzy. So so yeah, could definitely benefit from maybe some rolling off. And again, it's gonna be a matter of just coming in here to the EQ, which we don't even have an EQ on here. So this is the thing: we need to add an EQ. That one has a channel EQ, and where it's actually got the EQ there, actually rolling it off down the bottom here. So it won't do it now. We'll come back and do all those changes later. But you can see here we've got the dip in the middle there, and then we're going up here at the end. But so we're trying to add a little bit more high end, but I think we need to remove some sludge, because overall the guitars need to be louder, but not louder in those bass frequencies. So some good feedback coming in from the community here. Sounding great, but the lead vox need to be brightened up a bit. Yes. So lead vocals definitely need to be brightened. So it needs an EQ boost, or maybe like an exciter or something like that on the vocals. And yeah, as other folks have said, probably turn down as well. Thank you, Phil. The Psycho 7. I like it, Pete. I don't want to criticize. Well, that's what I asked for, so feel free to criticize. But I would be curious to try dialing the reverb on the vocals down and switch it. Yeah. So reverb, less vocals on the reverb, times 2, my friends. Not the echo, just the reverb. Yeah, then I would merge all the vocals into one track and give the combined vocals a tweak with EQ. Maybe dial down some of the mids and bass. Yeah, exactly. So that's yeah, vocals, high end boost, or turning down. So turning down the low end. So because a high end boost, remember, is just a low end reduction, and sometimes subtractive EQ is going to work better for you than additive EQ. So cool. Yeah, that's good. Good advice there. Appreciate you. No more soul. Hello to you. Vocals are too loud. Alternatively, everything else is too quiet. Yes, except the high pitched part of the drums. Those are still sitting properly, probably at the same level of the vocals. Yep. Guitars are too quiet. So yeah. So that's another one for vocals. Vocals need to go down. Guitars need to come up. That seems to be a very consistent guitar volume up times 2. Very consistent message that we're getting here. I see everyone saying you have too much low end, and I'm not sure literally everyone's saying that, but since everyone said that, not to overcorrect. Yeah, that's a really good point. And this is why I'll just give you a little hint here with your versions here in. So I'm using Logic Pro, but whatever you're using. So this is version 14. When we save, we'll come out to there. We're in completely the wrong project folder here. We'll go back into Logic Pro. We'll go back into Songtember. So I'm here at version 14. Before I do a single thing, before I change one iota, I'm going to make this choices 15 and then do my mix there, because I know what 14 is. I'm going to do all these changes, or some of the changes, listen to 15 and go, wait, did it improve or did it go backwards? Am I overcorrecting or am I not doing enough? And then we can redo it. And you don't want to overcomplicate things, but you also don't want to do a bunch of things and then not be able to really identify what you did, what works, and what's actually improving versus not improving. All this being said, I'm not a genius, and I know it. Yeah, so that's cool. So yeah, good stuff. Definitely some EQing work to do there. Tim Worldly is a worldly kind of guy. Forgive my lack of terminology, but are the green signal indicators not supposed to go past the clear knobs? If mine are, does that mean they're too loud? So, sort of, yeah. Basically, if you are here in the mixer, or even if you're out on this screen, we'll play one of the loud sections. So we'll come down here to the this sort of big loud verse here, and take a look at the metering here. Things that you just cannot change. Why do you care what they think of your choices in life? So yeah, short answer is, if you can, in a digital environment, you want... So here's the thing. You can see how low the vast majority of my faders are here on this track. Very little of it is up at like anywhere near the unity volume there. So yes, short answer for you is you tend to want to have your volumes lower, especially if you've got, in this case, 10, 15 tracks playing at once. Every one of those is going to add to that overall sound, and you're going to end up way too loud. And then you're going to be clipping or distorting or going overloading your main stereo out, and that ain't no fun for nobody. So yes, happy to answer questions as well, because we're all doing our final mixes, and hey, we're all learning together here. Mr. Martin Hammer, hello to you. Cool song, Pete. I like it. Great vocals. Think the guitar sounds a bit woolly and are too low in the mix. There you go. There's another one for guitar volume up. There's another one for guitar, doing some maybe high pass filtering on the guitar, because it is too woolly is a good word for it. Lead vocal is too loud, yes. Too much reverb and delay, yes. More grit to the whole production. That's just my humble opinion. Yeah, and I'll put that here because that's probably more of a. I'll just put master. More grit is what I'm thinking. So it might need to just sort of put maybe a little bit of an exciter or some analog something on that final analog compression plugin or something on the final master, just to kind of give it a bit more guts, as well as a limiter at the end there. So I appreciate that, Martin Hammer. Thank you. All right, let's move on to Marcel, who's got a bunch of stuff here. Great song, beats, drum, bass. Electric guitars are too similar in tone. They come across as pink noise. It's hard to discern the good guitar riff. Yeah, which is another one for like changing up the guitar tones, making sure that I'm using some complementary and opposing EQs on those guitar. Maybe vocal needs a bit more presence. Yep, definitely. Which is where did we have that? Vocals. I think the presence there is it needs some high end excitement. It needs a boost, a little bit of air in that high end of the vocals is probably what we need. Overall, sounds a bit muddy in the bottom end. Yes, and so yeah, exactly. So bottom end, and I think a lot of that comes from the guitars and the vocals, and because obviously the drums and bass, you want those a bit low endy, but I think the guitars and vocals, just putting a high pass filter on those is going to clean up a lot of that mud at the bottom end. Additional vocals starting with "if you make it come across harsh." Not sure if it's good fit for the song. Consider distorting main vocals instead. Yeah, that's an interesting point. No one really mentioned that sort of section, but it is probably the hardest area, and I need to play around with these, and I think these need to have a different kind of tone, because at the moment, and I've added a lot of reverb and delay on them at the moment, but I think that's more just to kind of hide them. Because I'm not super happy with them. Jade Starr's backing vocals, really good. My vocals, yeah. So I'll make a note of that. So the vocals, if you make it change. I don't even know what to put there because I don't quite know what I'll do differently there, but I'll look at them. Hey, we'll look at them in the next video. I like the ooze towards the end, but the organ is lost in the mix at that time. I love the ending, electric guitar chugging and organ from Marcel. So yeah, the organ is lost in the mix. I agree. So I think the organ needs to cut through the mix at the end. And I'm like, maybe automate down other tracks. So I kind of like the idea, if you're not familiar with the end of the song, I kind of like the idea of getting to the end here and doing some automation. Because at the moment, we'll just listen to the end of the song briefly. So there's that organ sound. I'm almost thinking that we like sort of start fading out on this last chord. We start fading down. So I think we need everything else to be a little quieter at the end there so that that organ can really cut through. At the end, excellent stuff. Thank you, Marcel. I'm new here. Hello, everyone. Hello, Peter Petron Melandris. Hello. Hello to you. Thank you for being here. Maybe don't end with the organ. Slow fade out with guitar. Camber Crush. I respect it. I appreciate it. I kind of love the organ. And again, you may not love the organ, and if you don't want to listen to the song, that's okay. But I kind of love the organ. Too much reverb on the box, says Coldacre. Needs to be drier, a little more crunch on the guitars. Yeah. So vocals, we have reverb, less reverb. Now gets a ×3, and I agree with that. I think there is too much reverb. The delay's good, but the reverb's a bit much. And yeah, what was the other thing? Fair? A little more crunch on the guitars. Yes, agree. So the guitars, I'll put here more crunch as well. Yeah, because the guitars are a little bit too muddy, a little bit too fuzzy. They need a little bit more, and maybe it's just turning up the gain on the virtual guitar amp that's going to do that. And then, yeah, maybe a little bit of low pass, or sorry, high pass or low cutting filtering on the actual track will do the trick. So yeah, that's where we're at. That's some really good feedback from everyone. I'm just going to read because one of my patrons, the wonderful Mars Capone, left me some special feedback over on the Patreon. So he gets the final say on this one. I'm just going to go and find his message before we finish up, which is always hard to do because I don't know if you know about Patreon. It's kind of hard to navigate. I love Patreon and I love my patrons. If you want to become one of them, you can do so, studiolivetoday.com/Patreon. But I would love to let Mars have the final say on this one. So let's read Mars's feedback, which I'm sure he won't mind me doing here. He says, regarding your mix, I have a few thoughts. First, I think it's one of your best grunge type tunes. Thank you. Some really interesting counterpoint and unexpected changes. The bridge is sick, my favorite part to listen to. The only thing I'd change or add is one higher voice, probably falsetto, either octave up or harmony. Interesting. Because it's Mars, I'm going to add it, even though I said I won't be recording new things. So we'll go vocals, add an octave up sound. And the thing is, I could even grab one of my original, like we could do some funky things with some tone changes and pitch shifting if we wanted to. So we'll see how we go that. The vox and the verses are just slightly too loud. I would bring it down a tick in the verses. Actually, the cool outro part, one man show, etc., is too quiet. So that needs to be automated up a little. Yeah, good point there. So that's another one for the vocals being too loud in the main verse sections or chorus or whatever you want to call those. But vocals at the end, not loud enough. And so that may need to come up a little bit in the mix at the end there. You're not the star of your own. Well, make sure that bit. And lastly, on the quiet parts where the music drops out, the vocals are needlessly loud. Yeah. So I think if Mars is talking about the bit that I think about, so there's two sections where I think that is. It's when it goes back into the verse after the first bridge here, this one. We need a break. That needs to be automated down real lots there. I don't think it needs it. And sort of the same towards the end here. Oh, too far to the end. There. So yeah, vocals at the end not loud enough. So I'm going to add here again, vocals, automate down at end of bridge 1 and end, because I think you're absolutely right that they stand out too much and they need to kind of just like fade away, and maybe even automate up the reverb in that part so it just kind of fades down but spreads out with the reverb in that section. That could be a cool thing to do. Cool. I forgot to say that one thing might be worth looking at. The guitars are way oversaturated. Yes, seems to be leaving grunge in almost a square wave 9 Inch Nails. Yep, sometimes you want to get a better groove when you take out some dirt. Try going to the point where it starts to sound weak, and then bring it up till it really drops. Yep, exactly. So it's probably another for sort of more crunch to the guitars and less of that low end sludge that we're getting there. Yeah, cool stuff indeed. So that is where we're at the moment. That's all of them. I'm going to bring back in here, and then I'm going to give you one more listen here. I said I wouldn't give you a listen, but I'm going to play it through, and we'll pull together these mix notes as I do that. But let's just summarize these and do a little bit of organization. This is the sort of thing that I recommend that you do too, if you're especially if you're new to mixing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab anything to do with vocals, and I'm going to bring that all together. So just some simple, you do this on a notepad, you can do this however you like, but it'll just help me when I'm addressing things, so I can do sort of things sort of one by one. I'm going to go vocals backing there. Vocals there, there's your less reverb that folks wanted. I've spelt vocals many different ways here, by the way, which is fine. We'll go vocals, 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 vocals. Yeah. There's another vocals. Yes, you're watching a man do copying and pasting. At least I'm on the right screen. Often I'm not when I do this sort of thing. There we go. And we'll grab this one and bring it up. So there's all of our vocal ideas. Let's read through these. So high pass filter on the vocals. A lot of folks saying we need less reverb. The idea to add an octave up vocal, which I kind of like. I might play with that. At the end, they're not loud enough. Yet we also had that they were too loud towards the end, which I think it just means that I need to automate the vocals. We need to get the good consistent volume of them. Turn them down 100%. Oh, we've put two together there. An EQ, so we need a little bit of high end, a little bit of air in those vocals. They're too sludgy. The filter, the ooze to make them thin. Yeah, so the ooze are a little bit too heavy. Even the O's at the start here are too heavy. So we're talking about these O's here like this. So the idea there is to do something. I'll do a quick example of what this might look like. I know I wasn't going to do any mixing here, but I can't help myself. So I think what we'd want to do with this, we already have it kind of with the low pass there. We'd probably bring it more up like this. So what we had there to begin with was just a standard low cut high pass filter, which was this. We might want it more like this, just to make it really thin, because and occupy just the top end, and that will do this with the obviously I'd need to do some experimentation to find out exactly where to do those cuts, because you don't want it to be too thin. But yeah, I like that idea. Definitely something I want to work on there. The automation we've talked about, high-end boost backing. Yep. So yeah, so some good ideas there for the vocals. The guitars, the other thing. So the drums, Jade Star clearly nailed the drums. We had virtually nothing about the drums. Maybe a little more, I agree with this, maybe a little more reverb on especially the snare. And the good thing about the drums here in Logic Pro is that Jade has done these in a drum sum stack. So I've got each individual kit piece. So what we can do, so if we wanted, so there's our kick drum and our snare. And what we can do is actually come in here and we can either add reverb on here, or I think what I've already done, I think I've put a little bit of a send to my reverb bus here. So there's our snare. And do I have anything? I don't at this stage. So no. So what I could do and what I will do, see how we've got reverb buses that I've set up here? I can very easily add a reverb bus there, which we will do. You better tune into the next show, because we're going to be doing some really fun stuff to finalize this mix. I'm going to admit, I was feeling a little bit hesitant about this because I wasn't super confident we were going to get all this done. That's why I wanted to sit down here and go through your feedback, and you have really helped me, so thank you with that. So drums, we don't have a whole lot to do with them. Maybe just some reverb on those. Guitars. Let's go with some guitars. Why do I have that twice, and why did I call it reverb? We probably only need one version of that. All right, let's go to the guitars. So, yep, the consensus here is that the guitars need a bit more intensity, a bit less low end and sludginess. The chorus guitars need more distortion and intensity. Some EQ oppositeness will be good. Some automation on the lead parts and some high pass filter. They need more presence. They need more crunch, and they need more volume. So yeah, I would agree with all of that. So we're going to spend some time in the next video working with these guitars. And again, not to completely change them, but it could just be a matter of just tweaking something slightly. So because we have our amp designer here, we can actually just adjust some of these settings. So maybe we just need a little more presence in there. Maybe we just need to reduce the bass, because look at this. We've got the bass, the mids, and the treble all up pretty high on this one. Maybe it really is just a matter of coming into some of these virtual amp sims and turning down the bass a little bit, just so that we get a little, and then turning up the volume so we're getting more of the frequencies we want. Because remember, EQ, just a volume knob for your frequencies. We've got the master there that we talked about with the idea there from, who was that? That was Martin, I believe. And then the organ at the end. So yeah, maybe the organ just needs to have a little automation up at the end, or everything else needs to automate back down. Those are some great ideas, and I'm already thinking about how we're going to achieve some of these things. I think the song's coming together. I think we don't have time with 3 days to do a whole bunch of re-recording or elaborate mixing, but I do invite you to join me in the next video. It will be linked below, so you can jump into that. If you're in the future, it might already be there. In fact, it might be showing up right now for you to click on or tap on and go and watch that next one. Don't forget, all the other Songtember videos are down in the description, and I do want to say thank you for being here. Please be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Keep creating, and happy Songtember, folks. We're nearly there.